Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alexis and I kind of talk through my journey here about PTA school. So if you're interested in PTA school at all, what the journey's like, anything of the matter, go ahead and subscribe down below. Make sure to leave any comments or questions down below as well, and like the video. Today I've got a different video for you guys. It is more personal, pretty much a story of why I chose physical therapy in general, and there's a lot of reasons why people choose certain career fields that they go into. So, you might have somebody that has a really general reason. Some people have a story to tell. Some people just chose it just because. So I have a little story of why I chose physical therapy, and I'm just going to share it with you guys. So I'm going to try to keep it short. It is a very long story, but I'm going to try to narrow it down. So if you're interested at all in learning why I chose physical therapy, then just keep watching. So let's see. Before I get started, let me know down below how you guys chose physical therapy as your career that you wanted to go into. Was it sport related? Was it injury related? Was it obviously injury of some sort? But what kind of, reasons did you get into physical therapy school? So comment down below and let me know. But my story is that whenever I was 13, I had gone to a dance recital with my grandma 2 hours away. It was my cousin's dance recital, and we traveled down there to watch her around in the evening time. So the dance recital got over and we went back to their house to just kind of hang out for a little bit before we went home. And it'd been about like 10 o'clock at night before we were gonna hit the road. Like I said, it's a 2-hour drive. So I saw my grandma kind of get a little tired, and I said, jokingly, oh, grandma, watch, you're gonna get tired and fall asleep and get in a wreck or something. Which I shouldn't joke about that, but so we hit the road. It was 10 o'clock. It'd take us until midnight to get home. And around 15 minutes before we would have gotten home, all of a sudden, first I was doing homework in the car for a while, and I didn't really want to do it anymore. So I turned off the light and I laid down. I took my seatbelt off and I laid down in the back seat a certain way, just without my seatbelt. So all of a sudden, like I said, around probably 11:45, midnight time, I felt the car kind of go over some gravel. And whenever you hear gravel, I heard the road strips first, and then I heard gravel, and I knew something was wrong. So I kind of woke me up, and I kind of sat up, and I knew something was gonna happen because I felt the car kind of shift a little bit, like gravity was pulling me a certain way. Not gravity, but the car was pulling me certain ways. So my grandma did fall asleep at the wheel. We were going 65, 70 something miles an hour. She fell asleep and woke up and overcorrected her turn and flipped the car about 6 times. So once I heard the gravel, I started to hear glass breaking. All the sounds of the crunching of the metal. And in the meantime of flipping in the car, my grandma and I had, for some reason, everything just kind of like zoned in. Like I could hear her, and she was yelling, I love you. I love you. I'm so sorry. And I just was like, I love you, grandma. And, saying our goodbyes, because honestly, I was just waiting for that moment that everything was just going to go pitch black. I was just waiting for the moment that was just going to hit me, and I was a goner. So it felt like forever, but finally we did stop flipping, and it just was like very still and calm and quiet. And I remember laying there, and I opened my eyes. I was like, okay, well, I'm still alive. That's good. And I didn't feel any pain at the moment. I was in shock, complete shock. And my grandma, she was in distress. She was okay. She did get a laceration on her hand. The car was completely smashed. I don't know how anything else didn't happen, but she got a laceration on her hand, and luckily she made it out completely fine. But she came around the car and saw that I was her, and one of the first things she says is, your grandpa's gonna kill me, like I ruined the car. And it was an SUV, but she was like, I ruined the vehicle, like, but you know, she's not thinking straight right now. So that's the first thing she said, but she did get a pillow for me wherever it came from inside the car. I put my head on a pillow and I sat there and wanted to try to get up. She's like, can you move? Can you get up? And I was able to move my top half, but as soon as I moved my legs, it felt like straight jello. I could not feel anything past my shins down, and I knew something was wrong at that point. So we laid there and we just hoped, you know, somebody would find us, and somebody came along. They stopped. I wish I knew that person to this day, because they stopped probably in good timing, and they called the ambulance, and they came pretty fast. It felt like, I remember them coming, and all of a sudden, you know, a bunch of people are just swarming, and you hear all these voices, and I was starting to hurt because the shock was starting to kind of wear off at this point, and they did have to break out the jaws of life to extract me from the vehicle because the back was so smashed. And a little story also, I was not wearing my seatbelt, and they did tell me if I would have been wearing my seatbelt, then I wouldn't have made it, because we ended up upside down, and the car was upside down at the end, and the seats that were originally on the floorboard ended up coming off and coming onto the ceiling pretty much. And I was on top of those seats that had come off the floorboard. I was just tossing around in there like a chicken. I don't know. But they said also, if I would have simply been laying the other way that night, I could have been laying to the right, left, I don't remember, but if I simply would have been laying the other way, everything that happened to my legs would have happened to my head. And I'm just lucky, and I praise God that, you know, I wasn't the chosen one that night. So the ambulance came, and they did have to extract me using the jaws of life. And I remember before they put me on the stretcher board, they had to tear my clothes because they needed to know where the injuries were. And I started to get really cold, and I started to shake, and I started to feel all of the pain starting to come through. And I knew something had been wrong with my legs, but then I started to feel a really sharp stinging in my back. And ultimately a road sign had came through the car and sliced my back open while we were flipping. So I had a huge laceration all the way across my back, and that started to sting really bad. And I ended up having a compound fracture of my left leg. And that, if you don't know what a compound fracture is, it is when the bone completely breaks through the skin. And that was my tibia, my big bone in my shin area. That is the bone that came through, I think either just the tibia or both the tibia and the fibula. But then I also broke my right leg as well, and I think I had to have a skin graft on my right leg for some reason. I don't know what caused me to lose most of the skin on my bottom right ankle. But yeah, also when they got me on the stretcher board and they got me in the ambulance, they had to really quickly pump me with morphine, obviously, and I could just remember the feeling of the warm blankets just surrounding my legs, surrounding my body, keeping me warm. And it was such a crazy feeling, like just everything rushing at that point. So they got me to the hospital, and I was in the trauma room. They stitched my back up. They inserted catheter. I don't know what they did with my leg at this point because I wasn't at the big hospital that they sent me to, but I did have to get that, probably tourniquet and something to just contain the blood in that area, because they did end up having to life flight me to OSF, which was an hour away. They said if I didn't get life flighted and I was to ride by ambulance, I probably wouldn't make it as well, because I was losing so much blood from the compound fracture and my injuries. So I did have to get life flighted, like I said, and I got to the hospital, and then it started to become a blur at that point. I remember, surgeries were a definite blur. I had to have multiple surgeries to fix the compound fracture. They had to put a external fixator on my leg, and it's like one of those cage things that you see on people that have rods and pins and screws and everything. And they had to align my bone properly again so it can heal. And then they did the skin graft, and they put also pins in my right leg, or screws in my right ankle. Not sure exactly what happened on that leg, but after being in the hospital, I do remember one instance, like it was so sad. Imagine your dad, you know, or your parents getting that phone call of you getting in a wreck and you're critical and you got life flighted. He rushed to the hospital, and the first time he saw me in the hospital room, he came over me, and I think it was either in the trauma, or I don't know when he first saw me, but it was in some room, and I just will never forget. I just opened my eyes, and there he was, just looking over me, and just complete wreck. And he was crying, and of course you could probably see a tear rolling down my face, and you know, just that sense of feeling like this is my baby girl, like she's hurt and it's sad. And yeah, that was like one of the most sad times of that whole part. But I got stable. I was fine. I did have to get a blood transfusion and to replenish all the blood that I had lost. So the hospital stay, I don't remember how long I was in there, but I finally got out and I went to outpatient physical therapy. I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair with 2 broken legs. So I started from the beginning. They literally went through just very basic stuff, little by little. Every session we worked at it, and my therapists were amazing. You know, sometimes I didn't want to do it. Sometimes I struggled really bad, but I pushed through. And I will never forget the time that I got up on my 2 feet for the first time and just stood. And then even just taking 1 step or taking 2 steps and finally walking on my own was mind-blowing to me. Like, to go from literally not being able to do anything and not walk, and then you walking out of physical therapy. I mean, I don't know how many months it was, but I wouldn't have made it to that point without them. And I can run now, I can walk, I can do things perfectly fine. And I do have limited range of motion, but in chronic swelling and stuff like that, but I don't have very much issues now. I do get stiff in the morning. I will probably have really bad arthritis, but I'm here and I'm functional, and that's what's amazing to me. And pretty much after I was done with physical therapy, I realized maybe the reason why I went through this whole entire thing was because it showed me what I'm supposed to be doing for the rest of my life. What is my purpose here? It's to help others in instances like me, just any person with any injury, any, you know, decreased mobility or function, return to function and have a quality of life. That is so important. And I don't think people understand the importance of physical therapy, and to the extent that it is. I feel like they think, oh, physical therapy, they're just here to hurt me. You know, my therapist, all she wants to do is hurt me. All she wants to do is this. Physical therapists and physical therapist assistants are well-trained, well-educated. They know exactly why they're doing what they're doing, and they will get you to where you need to be. So, I mean, most of the time, especially if you have a certain injury, you have a knee replacement, hip replacement, a motor vehicle accident, you're a paraplegic, help you get more functional, you know, having a prosthesis, learning how to work with that. There's so many things that physical therapy, physical therapists, and physical therapist assistants help people restore their function and, like I said, quality of life. And I just realized at a very young age, like, this is what happened to me, so I can that's how I can provide to others, is help them like physical therapists have helped me. Physical therapy, you know, it just changed my life. So that's a little bit why I am in the physical therapy field. It was a traumatic injury. It was a traumatic thing that happened to me, but in the end, it completely changed the way I think, and I'm so much more grateful for life in general, and I know what I'm here on earth for. So like I said, let me know down below why you chose the career field that you are going into. Physical therapy, physical therapist assistant, just a little backstory. I'd love to know. So I think that's all that I have for you today. Go ahead and like this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.